Welcome everybody to Live Music LiveWire. I'm Bob Sanchez, your host, and tonight we are very honored to have with us this evening Mr. Rick Weinman. Rick has been you might say, the guitar tech to the stars. He has been with the Ramones, with Rammstein, John Cougar Mellencamp, although I understand I'm not supposed to say Cougar.
Not anymore.
Not anymore, okay.
Not to his face.
Not to his face, okay. And Pearl Jam, among others. So we're going to get a chance to hear a little bit about Rick's experiences out on the road with some of these bands, but also a little bit about Rick himself and some of his other interests. So, welcome, Rick Weinman, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, everybody.
So, Rick, tell me a little bit, since I think that the primary interest would be in how you got involved in the music business.
Well, I'd sit in my room playing Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin, and I'd go to every show I could go to. I loved music. My parents hated the music I listened to, which is typical.
Yep.
And I would go to every concert I could, because you could go for $3 or $4, go see Ted Nugent, whoever. You know, it was really cheap. And I was like wondering, how do those guys get those jobs on stage? So you can't apply for them. You can't go audition for them. And I just figured out you have to be in the right place at the right time. And fortunately, I was at some point.
Okay, well, you moved down to this Baton Rouge area here from up north. You came down, I guess your dad moved around a little bit, got transferred, came down to Baton Rouge, and then you kind of got involved with the music scene we had here, which at one time, this would have been back in the 1970s, was a very vibrant music scene. A lot of creativity back then, so you certainly got involved with a lot of the guys that were doing that stuff back then.
And I had a van.
Had a van. Well, there's the key. There's the key. The guy that can move the PA, okay? But then, of course, as you continued on hanging out with the guys, playing, you still wound up having to kind of be a tech for everybody because you're a fix-it guy, right?
Pretty much. I mean,
okay.
I always worked on cars.
Mm-hmm.
Forget I'm a car nut, and we'll get to that.
Mm-hmm,
but friends would be playing guitars and be like, well, my guitar's broke, I had to put it in the shop, and what am I going to do? It's like, well, wait a minute. Let's just take it apart and see what's going on. And 9 times out of 10, you've got a little wire here. Let's solder it back up and plug it in, and it would work. So I kind of taught myself how to fix guitars.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not that much to it, but of course you can't just throw stuff together and think it's going to work.
Well, no, there's a certain amount of precision involved, but
Right.
someone like yourself, you have a knack for it, obviously, and you have an interest in doing things right the first time through.
Well, so, okay, with a car.
Yeah,
You know,
there
you
you go.
throw a carburetor on there, it's not just going to run.
That's right.
You have to fine-tune it and adjust everything, and same with the guitar. You have to make sure the intonation's right, your string height is right, and you don't have buzzes and whatever, and there's not a lot to it, but there is precision.
Precision involved. Now, this, of course, is going to lead into a place where after, hanging out with the guys, fixing the guitars for your friends, you wind up hooking up with the Ramones, one of the major bands that have come out sort of in the United States. Now, how did this come about?
Well, the first time I heard the Ramones, I walked in the Leisure Landing, and I knew the store manager there, and the first record came out with a promotional baseball bat, and he's running around the store. This is unbelievable. This is great. This is great stuff here, and he kept playing the record over and over again. It's like, well, this is great. It's kind of, to me, it sounded like Black Sabbath on a 78 speed, a lot faster, and was a huge fan. I'd go see them every time I could around here. Met some of the crew guys. Met Johnny Ramone. Met the rest of the Ramones, and Johnny and I became good friends. He loved the food down here, so every time they'd come down here, we'd go out to get something to eat, and we just got along great. And I happened to go visit family back in New York, and I think they were recording a record and getting ready to go on the road. And he's like, the merchandise guy just quit or got fired. He goes, oh, you want to help us out? I was like, sure, I'll go out and sell shirts, fine, and working for an international act, doing anything. It was great.
Really.
A year later, the guitar tech quit, and I told John, I said, hey, I can do this stuff. But I don't think he really believed me. He had a friend of his that was a musician that couldn't really do it. But Johnny said, can you come to these 3 shows and make sure everything goes fine. So it was me and the old guitar tech and the new guitar tech. And the new guy, good musician, but the first day he was changing Johnny's strings and dropped the bridge and the heater deck in the floor. So,
wow.
So we had to dig the floor apart to get it out. And then the drum tech was complaining, this guy can't drive and he's got a bad back and whatever. And Johnny's like, can you tune a guitar in 3 minutes? It's like, well, I think so. And it's like, all right, tune my guitar. It's like, well, okay, it's in tune. I said, well, why 3 minutes? Because that's exactly how long the encore break is. So you need to tune my guitar in 3 minutes. When we come back, I'm ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I didn't realize until that point how regimented everything was up there on stage. And tuned his guitar, and next thing I know, I'm on my way to Japan with the Ramones, and there I am doing everything for Johnny and Dee Dee on stage for the next, I think it was 8 years.
Wow, 8
The final
years.
show.
Didn't have to apply for that job. You kind of fell into it, so to speak.
Being in the right place.
This is one of the things I think a lot of people would be interested to really kind of know. This is sort of the inside baseball of this, the regimentation of a show like this. Because the professional shows, they go on, and boom, it's got to be just so all the way through. And a lot of people don't realize the mechanics that go into that. Now, you have definitely better insight than most of us Earth people do. So give us a little insight. You now are guitar tech. You're on the road with them. Different venues from around the world. You said Japan is where you're on your way to. You come into a crowd in a large venue. You got, what, hour and a half or so that show is.
Well, Ramones was great because we didn't have to get there at the crack of dawn in the morning, and everybody knew their job. We didn't really have a production manager, so we were kind of on our own. So somebody, you're going to take care of this today, you're going to take care of that today, you're going to take care of this today. So we'd get in there, set up our stuff, check everything, and we could usually get the stage and the PA set up in 2 hours. And the band would come in and do 3 or 4 song sound check, and Johnny would be like, you got that? And it's like, yeah, I'm fine. And they'd go and eat, and then everything would be chill until the show would go on. Of course, the show would go on. There'd be no delays. It's like, if you're going on at 7 o'clock, the band's hitting the stage at 7 o'clock. They would play, I forget, I think it was like 3 or 4 songs, and then they would take their jackets off. That was regimented. Then in the middle of the set, Johnny would change guitars just to check the tuning, and his guitar was always in tune. Even though it was a $50 guitar, it was always in tune. So he'd play a second guitar for three songs, switch back, and then they'd go right through the end of the show. And fortunately, most of the time, everything worked. But when it didn't, there was hell to pay.
Well, now, to think things are always going to be perfect is next to impossible to imagine. So, handling a situation like that, what would you have to find yourself doing?
Think about as many things as you can possibly that may have gone wrong, that could be wrong, and know that you always have a backup ready to go so you can switch right over and hopefully nobody would notice.
Now, well, that's always good. If you can change the guitar strings in 3 minutes, because that's the break of the encore, then you're going to have a backup plan to go if the guitar gets dropped and the next out of adjustment, headstock breaks. What do? You better have a backup ready to roll.
Well, with the Ramones, if the headstock broke, we'd be in trouble because he only had 2 guitars on the road with us.
Well, luckily, I guess that didn't happen.
So
I guess that's the sign of a good guitar tech here.
Plus, sign of a good guitar player appreciates what he's playing.
There you go.
And
Now,
respects his
different.
tools.
Yes.
He's not throwing them around.
Right. Well, they are tools of the trade.
Yeah, but there are those guys out there that do throw their stuff around, and
well, they usually have a special one they throw around.
well, sometimes they do, but they don't remember. So a friend of mine doing, another band I worked for, Pearl Jam, Mike Mccready, great guitar player, he would get in his moment, and he'd get ready to go smash a 57 Stratocaster, and his tech would have to grab it out of his hands and hand him a Squire or something. Mike, smash this.
Yeah.
But I have been in Screaming Trees when I worked for them over in England, the first show we did. The bass player only had 1 guitar. And he turns around on stage. There's a big pole in the middle of the stage. Headstock just dink.
Oh, wow.
Show's over.
Yeah.
We're to the music store the next morning, buying him a new bass.
Buy him a new bass.
You know, he just didn't realize the pole was there. During Lollapalooza, I was helping out the Screaming Trees. Because they only had one tech and they needed somebody else to help. A friend of mine was working with them, so he asked me to help him out. So he worked for Pearl Jam. So when Lollapalooza was over, he went over to work back with Pearl Jam. Screaming Trees needed a guy, so I became the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And worked until they just kind of had a meltdown.
Ah, okay.
We were playing with Oasis,
Mm-hmm.
who was known for meltdowns.
Oh, yeah.
The brothers
Well, yeah,
fighting constantly. And the day we were about to pull ourselves out of the tour, the brothers and another guy in the band got in a huge fight, and I guess Noel flew home, and they came to us just as we were about to go to them and pulled the plug on the tour. So
wow.
it was great for us because we got paid, but the band was done.
Okay. Had y'all pulled out, you wouldn't have got paid.
Right.
So they pulled out, worked out good for
I mean,
y'all.
it was literally, we were walking out the door to go,
Mm-hmm.
you know, tour managers to tell them that, we're done, and they were coming in the door.
Boy,
tell
a
us it was
stroke of
done.
luck.
Yeah.
These things don't always happen.
No, they don't.
No, they don't.
We had opened up for Pearl Jam, I think, in '95 for 4 shows, and they became really good friends because they both loved baseball. Their political views were complete
Opposites,
opposite.
yeah.
So I had gone down to the Letterman show. Pearl Jam was doing Letterman just to see the crew guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm walking up the steps behind Eddie and turns around, hey, you want to work for me? So it's like, yeah, but not tonight. I don't want to cut my teeth in the Letterman show.
Yeah.
So they flew me out to, I think, Toledo or something, and I worked with them for 17 years.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
a good long time. So you've already amassed 9, now 17, plus the Screaming Trees.
Yeah, plus everything, Pearl Jam would work every other year pretty much. So in those off years, I would go find another gig somewhere else. So
Well, now in that world, is there I don't guess it's an agency of any kind, but is there obviously communications between different groups? So
it's word of mouth.
you're a
pretty
hot
much.
commodity that people say, hey, Rick's available, get him for the tour.
Pretty much. Or
Yeah.
you just make a phone call saying, look, I'm off for the next year. You got anything going? You know anybody that needs a guy? And, through the networking of touring professionals,
That's a good way to
roadies.
put it, yeah. Okay.
I was able to pick up other gigs and worked for some pretty good bands.
Well, who else?
So it was Fountains of Wayne, and they were just a fledgling band. They were just forming then. They didn't have any hit songs at all. And after that, it was might have been 311 or Rammstein after that, and there was Monster Magnet, there was Hootie and the Blowfish. I'm not sure of the chronological order, but and most of these bands are Hootie wasn't a fan of, but they were good people.
Yeah.
Real good
Okay.
people. And they were like a wonder story in their own. They were just kind of playing. They were a college band playing college gigs and just wrote a few songs that made it big and hit the radio. But I don't think the stardom really took them. They were still normal people.
Now, see, that's an unusual thing. Now, that would be another whole angle to what stories you have to tell. The difference in the people themselves. Some people it goes to the head, some people it doesn't. Some people are just regular Joes. As many times as I've been able to be backstage with different people to find out who's a regular Joe, and some people are the prima donnas. I'm sure you know a lot about that.
Well, luckily most of them were normal people, but there
Yeah,
were
it's
some of
always
those that you just have to, walk around on eggshells
Yeah.
for, and it's usually the ones that had more money they knew what to do with,
Yeah,
but acting like they had nothing.
yeah.
Hey, can you come on over and hang out? And on the way over, pick up a pack of smokes and a 6-pack, and you get there, and it's like, well, I just spent $20 to get you beer and cigarettes, and I don't have any money. Okay, well,
Yeah.
whose name is in the spotlight?
Right over there, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that happens. I mean, none of those guys ever had any money. And not that they don't want to pay for it, but they kind of tend to forget where they put their money sometimes.
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
Joe would leave it in the drawer in the hotel, you know, like thousands of dollars in T-shirt money.
Wow.
And we'd be having to go back and, you know, go
Find
back to the room.
Rosalia, the girl cleaning the room.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully nobody was in the room.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know, but
that's
then
the-
there's some people, like, I've always told people you don't want to meet your idols because you may be disappointed. And when I've gotten called to do some gigs with some very important people in my life as far as what they meant to me growing up, listening to their music, I didn't want to be let down by going to work for them and being completely evil people. But I was pretty much surprised. I mean, when I went to work with Mellencamp, I was told that he might be a problem, but he and I got along fine.
Wonderful.
A friend of mine didn't get along so well with him, so he didn't last.
Well,
2
there are
weeks.
times you push the wrong button with somebody.
Yeah,
Sometimes
well.
it just doesn't work out.
Yeah. So he was a pleasure to work for. You know,
Yeah.
I liked working for those guys, and I was, you know, kind of like, I don't really like his music, but you know, you listen to the records and you know, it's all the hits on the radio. But then when you get on stage, it's like, man, these guys rock. And it's loud. It's not mellow at all.
It's not subdued.
And
Yeah.
it's the 2 guitar players are fighting over sound. You know, it's like, well, you're louder than I am. Well, I'm louder than you. It's like, well, you guys sound great together. So, you know, don't make it too loud where John doesn't like it.
Yeah.
But no, it was fun working with those guys.
Okay, well, now there are some things, of course, I'm sure you have, and I know you brought with you a bit of an artifact, if you will,
Yeah.
of
this
some of
is-
the stuff you've had.
This is one of Johnny's guitars.
Uh-huh.
He last played this. Well, the date's on the back.
Okay.
July 10th, 1996.
Okay, signed by Johnny Ramone, right here.
Yeah.
All right.
Previously owned by Johnny
Previously
Ramone.
owned by him, but now in the possession of Rick Weinman. Okay.
Yeah, so he wanted me to have one of his guitars, and I'm grateful to have it. It's not the one he beat on for 20-something years.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, well, this is in good shape as opposed to having been beat on.
yeah. Well, the
But
beat on one's in the Hard Rock Hall of Fame,
Yeah.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and that's
Well, that's where they get to go.
yeah.
They're there for everybody to have.
Yeah.
But you know, the nice thing about this is this has kind of puts you in the family a little bit. He wanted to have you have something of his, which is more of a personal touch. So I'm sure there's some memories you have and some pleasantries there that mean more to you than others.
Well, I was grateful that he wanted me to have this, and you know, there were other people that he wanted to give guitars, soon he gave them to him, and I don't think anybody owns any of them anymore. They sold them to somebody. Somebody owns them, but not the
Well,
people
you
he
know,
intended them to go
They go
to.
up on Facebook for the highest bidder,
But, you know, people have offered me a lot of money for that, and it's, you know, it's not for sale.
yeah. Well, that's actually a principled decision, I think.
Yeah, well, you know, Johnny opened a lot of doors for me, so to speak, and I'm grateful for that. And you know, I mean, people have sold letters that he wrote to him, and it's like, you know, that's kind of really personal. You kind of want to keep that, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
that's-
I've you know, I don't sell any of my Ramones stuff.
Nah. Well, that was a big part of your life. So you've had some wonderful experiences, close experience with wonderful people, apparently. But I would start to ask if there's a book involved here with some of your stories.
Well, I've been thinking about it for a while, and people have told me, you need to write a book, you need to write a book, you need to write a book, but I really need to sit down with somebody, spend some time so you can pull these, all this stuff out of my head that's kind of everywhere. And,
Well, sometimes
it
it's
could
taking
happen.
down and getting a chronology together, and sometimes our better halves sometimes can tone us down to a place where we can get rid of some of the chaff and keep the meat and potatoes.
Yeah, well, it's probably just going to pull all this crap out of the head and fine tune it all and throw away the stuff that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
And then put into a book that's fun and easy to read. Like Johnny's book was great. It's to the point. It's not very long. It makes sense.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go off on a tangent anywhere. And you want to know about Johnny Ramone's life? You can
There
read it in
it
his
is,
book Commando, and I would like to write something similar to that. That's easy to read, fast to read, and people would just say, "Wow, that's kind of cool."
Well, you heard it here first, folks. There will be a book. Any ideas for a title?
Well, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Okay, well, that sounds like the music business in general to me.
Well, it is.
Okay, well, there you go.
There's good people out there, there's
Uh-huh.
bad people out there, and the music industry itself is kind of ugly.
Well, you know what? I think that is something that's been spoken about by a lot of people in a lot of different ways. But I'll be looking forward to having your take on it. Your slant is from an inside baseball standpoint, which I think is important for everybody, and a whole lot of people be interested in it. So I look forward to seeing that come out.
Well, a lot of people don't realize what it takes to get a show.
Yeah.
For you to put it on, for somebody to come there and spend an hour and a half seeing a band they like and hearing the music they like. Who knows how many times did the truck break down trying to get to the venue?
There you go.
Or
the amp not work, or the tubes get broken,
or getting to a venue, and something's broken, and trying to find a place like live music to get.
That's right.
To get your
There you
parts. I need somebody to fix this amp and try to fix it right away.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the goal us little people, always have out there, to meet guys like this who are out there actually doing it. And for all the people that are interested in knowing a little more about how this industry actually works, this is where you find the information. The guys that have been out there on the road, in the venues, driving the truck. So I'd like to thank Mr. Rick Weinman very much for coming to join us here. I hope you've enjoyed this. It has been an absolute wealth of information and fascinating all the way down. And perhaps The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, the book, will be coming out soon. So thank you all for tuning in, and thank you again, Rick.
Thank you, Bob.
All right.
Appreciate it.